to the food source, such as salt. So it took the U.S. nearly 100 years to add iodine to salt, to follow Boos and Galt's recommendations. Now, what about iodized salt? It has 74 micrograms of iodide per gram of salt. It's a very cost-effective way to prevent goiter. However, I say it's inadequate to provide for the body's need for iodine. And this study really proves it. It's done by Pittman. It was done in the 1960s. He looked at two groups. Group 1 had iodized bread. Group 2 had iodized salt. They were both given 750 micrograms per day of iodine in both groups. And from that amount of iodine coming in, you would expect the serum level, when they do a blood test, should be about 17 micrograms per liter. But what Pittman found was that in the blue is the expected, which was pretty close to 17 micrograms per liter. The bread group came up right where it should, so people got enough iodine from bread. Look at the salt group. Only 10% of the iodine in salt is bioavailable. Salt's not even the best way to get iodine in the body. So, why? Could it be from competitive inhibition by chloride in salt? Very doubtful. Our body has grams and grams of chloride that we use to pump, to fuel pumps, to make energy. We need chloride in our body. I don't think that's doing it. But there's other things in iodized salt that are a problem. Ferrocyanide, there's chlorine in it. I talk about this more in my book, Salt Your Way to Health, and in my lecture on salt. But once you learn about iodized salt as a poor substance, a devitalized substance that should be avoided in our diet, who would still recommend iodized salt? Unfortunately, there are many doctors who do to get your iodine in. And here's three of them: Drs. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard. But if we toss Drs. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard out of the mix, and you start learning about salt, you'll realize that you need to add iodine to your diet and take in unrefined salt. Here's my book, Salt Your Way to Health. Again, I reiterate to you, if you're not taking in unrefined salt, you are salt deficient, and it's very hard to maintain your optimal health when you're salt deficient. So just to remind you, iodine levels have fallen 50% in the United States over the last 30 years. Just as Ricky asked Lucy what happened, you should be asking yourself what happened and what are the consequences of this. Well, during that time, iodine levels have fallen 50%. We've had increases in all the thyroid illnesses, as well as cancers of the hormone-sensitive tissue, the breast, the prostate, endometrium, and ovaries, and all those conditions can be caused by iodine deficiency. At our office, the first 250 patients that I tested, 94.7% tested significantly low in iodine. Here's where the first 24. You can see here that 2 people met sufficiency above that red line. Now, one of them was my nurse, Denny, number 5. We're going to talk about her, but 2 out of 24 met it. Here's the next 26, 0 out of 26. That means 2 out of 50, which is about 96%, were severely deficient in iodine. Now we've tested over 4,000 patients. By the end of this year, we'll be over 5,000 patients. And our results have shown 96.3% have tested low via urine and or serum testing. It's consistent. Almost everybody's low in iodine, unless you're taking iodine. So why? Well, the soil's deficient in iodine. It's known to be deficient in the Midwestern areas and mountainous areas, and that's from glaciers, deforestation, and forest farming techniques. But the main reason is pollution. Pesticides and insecticides contain bromide and fluoride and chlorine, which all inhibit iodine. It's a national and a worldwide problem. There's not much iodine in food, as shown in this slide. So hopefully by now, again, we've seen this slide a few times now, the 50% decline in iodine levels. Why has it happened? So why are people iodine deficient? Well, people don't use salt. Number one, they're all afraid of getting hypertension. We've been conditioned that salt equals hypertension, which is the farthest thing from the truth. Even refined salt does not cause hypertension in the vast majority of people, but unrefined salt certainly doesn't. And I use unrefined salt to treat hypertension. But less than 50% of U.S. households use iodized salt. It's probably less than 30%. Radioactive iodine use in medicine can only work in an iodine deficiency state. Chemical exposures. This is the main reason people are deficient in iodine and more deficient, and why we require more iodine. They're called goitrogens, the bromine, chloride, and fluoride. They're in drugs that contain fluoride and bromide. Almost all the drugs that have been recalled from the market over the last 10 years, I would say, I'm just guessing on this one, but I would say well over 50% have a fluoride or a bromide molecule attached to them. Now, these molecules competitively inhibit iodine as well as decrease iodine uptake. There's declining mineral levels in general in our soil, but the main reason is diet. One of them is soy. Soy is the cheapest crop to grow in the United States. It's a known goitrogen. It causes swelling of the thyroid. Now, soy contains compounds that inhibit thyroperoxidase. And these compounds are daidzein and genistein, which are commonly found in supplements you'll see on the health food store shelves. I would say you should avoid these as supplements. And when low iodine levels are present, soy compounds block TPO-catalyzed tyrosine iodination by acting as alternate substrates, and they produce chemicals that we shouldn't produce in our bodies, mono, di, and tri-iodosoy flavones. Now, that's a mouthful, but these compounds worsen an iodine deficiency, and they can only occur when there's lower intermittent doses of iodine, which is what most of the population is taking in. I suggest to you avoid non-fermented soy-containing foods, soy milk, soy dog, soy cheese, and soy supplements. It does not include the fermented forms of soy, miso, and tempeh. So, what are the other dietary reasons for iodine deficiency? Diets without ocean fish or sea vegetables, inadequate use of iodized salt, vegan and vegetarian diets notoriously deficient in iodine, especially if you're not taking in sea vegetables. Bromine in food and drinks. Some Gatorade products, Mountain Dew, and other soft drinks contain bromine. These need to be avoided. Bromine is a substance that inhibits iodine in the body. And bakery products, bread, pasta, cereal, now they all contain bromine. But let's ask the question, what happened to bakery products? In the 1960s, iodine was added to bakery products as an anti-caking agent. One slice of bread contained the RDA for iodine, 150 micrograms. Somewhere in the early 1970s, bromine was substituted for iodine due to misinformation about iodine. I've searched for why this took place. I can't find it. It occurred right at the same time conventional medicine began using iodine in all their medical tests. And that doesn't work if you have adequate amounts of iodine in. Maybe there's a correlation there. But what did the substitution of bromine for iodine in the early 1970s do? And they substituted it in breads, pasta, cereal, all the products made with flour. Well, it creates a double whammy in the body. It worsened an iodine deficiency problem already present in the United States, and it competitively inhibited iodine in the body by adding a Goitrogen bromine to bakery products. I say it's the most asinine act amongst many in the history of the food industry. So this gentleman saw my lecture. He's the CEO of Bubba Grump Shrimp Company and a very wealthy man who self-made multimillionaire. And he says, stupid is as stupid does. What do you expect when we make our population iodine deficient and then we throw in these toxic goitrogens, bromide, fluoride, chlorine, and soy into our diet? We're going to make things worse. What about bromine? It's a toxic substance with no known value in the body. It's in the family of halides. All those halides compete with one another for absorption and receptor binding. And we know that bromine interferes with iodine utilization in the thyroid as well as other areas of the body. It's a known goitrogen. It's known to bind to wherever iodine binds to, the breast, prostate, the thyroid. Now, we had a patient who was doing very well, was sick when we first saw her. She was doing great for a couple of years, and all of a sudden all her symptoms come back. She's fatigued, she's achy, brain fog, she gets anxious, and we can't figure out what's shifted in her. She saw my lecture, and I showed this slide. And this slide shows the different chemicals in a new car. The steering wheel has 3 parts per million bromine. The seat is 2.5% made of bromine. The shift knob, 333 parts per million bromine. You know, it's all over these new cars. That's what that smell is. When you go into, when you sit into a new car, part of it is the chemical smell of bromine. She had just gotten a new car, and when her symptoms started. So she gave her car to her husband. She took the old car. We detoxed her. It took about 4 to 6 weeks. All her symptoms went away. And needless to say, I don't think she's going to be getting a new car in her lifetime. So the halogens, fluoride, chloride, bromide, iodine, these are all chemically related to one another in the same family. They can inhibit one another's absorption. They can bind to one another's receptors in the body. Here's the molecular weight of the halogens. Here's the size of the halogens in this next slide. If you're going to use one halogen to inhibit iodine, which one are you going to use on this slide? You're going to use the one that more closely resembles iodine, and you can tell what it is. It's bromine. And the bromine has a closer molecular weight to iodine. Therefore, it's more structurally similar to iodine. Animal studies show that bromine intake can adversely affect the accumulation of iodine in the thyroid and the skin. And higher bromide intake results in iodine being eliminated from the thyroid gland and replaced by bromide. And ingestion of bromine has been shown to cause hypothyroidism in animals. In fact, when you get thyroid hormone levels, T4 and T3 levels, how can you be assured that those T4 and T3 are 4 molecules of iodine, 3 molecules of iodine versus bromide? You can't. Our conventional testing doesn't allow for that. Yet we know it can happen in the body. So when iodine deficiency is present, the toxicity of bromine is accelerated in the body. Where do you get exposed to bromine? It's an antibacterial agent for pools and hot tubs. It's a fumigant for agriculture. And it's sprayed on fruits and vegetables, and those crops are found to contain high bromide levels. It's also a fumigant for termites and other pests. In 1981, 6.3 million pounds of bromide were sprayed in California. By 1991, 18.7 million pounds of bromide sprayed in California. Where is this bromide going? It's going to our food supply. When you pesticide your lawn or insecticide your lawn, you're using chemicals that contain bromide and fluoride. I encourage you to stop doing it. You're poisoning the environment, poisoning my lawn, and I don't use that stuff. Now my lawn may not look the greenest to you, but who cares at this point? We're in this economic crisis and this healthcare crisis, and we don't need golf course green lawns, and it's certainly not worth our health to do that. Bromine's been shown to decrease sex drive in the sperm count of mice. It enhances estrogen receptors and decreases progesterone receptors. There's 33% less male births in women with the highest exposure to pesticides containing bromine, PBDEs and PCBs. Now, this was done in my office, and I do iodine testing in my office and bromine testing. Every patient that I have tested for bromine has been toxic on bromine. I've tested well over 500 patients now. Overall, between sending it out for labs, we've tested over 1,000 patients. Every single patient, healthy, sick, doesn't matter what they have, toxic levels of bromide. Now, the ones who are sick usually have higher amounts than the ones who are not sick, but everyone's got toxic levels of bromide. So these were 32 patients taken at random. So out of these 32 patients that I tested in my office, you can see we did a pre and a post iodine test where we did 24 hours of urine collection, then they took 50 milligrams of iodine, then they collected another 24 hours of urine. You would expect the iodine to kick the body's bromide to come out. So what you can see here is that the pre and the gray, their levels of bromide were high, all of them. This was a mean, but they were all high, above that yellow line. When the post, after they took iodine, they went up 50% on average. So the body was able to start detoxing from bromide. Here's the iodine part of the test. Everyone was deficient in iodine at the pre-level, and at the post level, they should have normal, should be about 45 milligrams here. And so they're about half, 50% deficient in iodine for these 32 patients. What about pesticides? We know pesticides contain organic bromine, and the amount of bromine in human breast milk has increased tenfold over the last decade from the EPA. Now, this is a 42-year-old male. This was me, and my iodine tests over time. And you can see here that normal should be 45 milligrams. And you can see over time, from taking 50 to 75 milligrams of iodine per day, my iodine levels were going up. And I was starting to approach normal in October of 2004. But you can also see, look at my bromine levels. In the before I started iodine, I was near toxic levels of bromine. And Dr. Abraham was doing this test for me, and he was calling me after he did this initial test, and he said, "Dave, I think you're drinking Mountain Dew or something." And I said, "I don't drink Mountain Dew." He says, "Well, you're getting exposed to bromine from somewhere," and we couldn't figure out where. But what I finally ascertained was I ate a lot of fruit and vegetables, and I'm assuming that that's where I'm getting this from. But really, it was taking of iodine which caused my bromine levels to decline over time. What I found was I felt good beforehand, I feel good afterwards, but my brain is much sharper. And I never had brain fog, but I thought I felt good before taking iodine, but boy, my brain really sharpened up with iodine. I think it was from this bromine detox. So, to get 600 micrograms of iodine across the cell and into the thyroid gland, you need the serum concentration of 10 to the -5 to -6 molar. You can't reach that at the RDA for iodine. It's impossible. You'll never get the levels up high enough in the blood